Do you have any idea how to plan a garden? Maybe the thought of planting a garden just overwhelms you. Let's talk a bit today about how we can design a garden that suits your lifestyle. Hi, I'm Heidi with Broadmeadow Farm, and today we'll go through a bunch of questions to get your brain thinking about how you want to use your yard to get you that perfect garden that suits your lifestyle. So you might be asking yourself, why am I asking you these questions? These questions are meant to spur you on to thinking a little bit more in depth about how your garden will work for you. I mean, when you do a renovation in your home, you think about how you want to use your house, how you want it to look, what styles you have, and the deciding factor, of course, always is budget. So the same thing works in your outside space. It is an extension of your living space, and we have such a short window of actually using our garden here in Alberta that we want to make sure that we've utilized it in the accurate and appropriate way. We don't want to create this elaborate, extensive, complicated garden when we have only an hour of maintenance. Then what happens is that beautiful garden that you dreamed of, you spent all this money on, becomes a headache, and you stop taking care of it and it becomes a mess. So the goal for all of these questions is to make sure that you are thinking how you want to use your yard, how you want it to look, how much time you actually have to put into this, and again, that you're not breaking your budget for this garden. The number one question you want to ask yourself when you want to plan a garden is, well, how do you want to use your yard? Are you wanting to use a yard as a deck? Do you want a fire pit area? Are you into vegetable gardening? Do you just want a few flowers? Maybe you want to have a great big patio for entertaining. These are the first questions that you need to ask yourself about planning a garden. For our new yard site, the few things that I have on my list is want to be able to have my vegetable garden. Number two, I have a lot of perennials because I like to do cut flowers as well. Number two, I want to have my perennial garden and I want to be able to have lots of beautiful color. I like to have big rambling beds. Number three, I want to make sure that I have my chickens there. So I want to be able to have access for the chickens into my vegetable garden area so that they can clean up the garden at the end of the season. There's nothing better than chickens getting into your garden. They clean up all of the bugs and the dead plants that you've tossed throughout the year. Also during the garden season, I want to be able to have easy access when I'm weeding to toss those weeds over the fence into the chicken pen. So those are the three biggest areas that I'm looking for to use in my garden. The next question you want to ask yourself are there any really big dreams that I want my yard or garden to give me? Does that mean I've been dreaming about putting in raised beds? Do I want to have a water feature? Does that water feature need to be a big pond, or does that water feature need to be just a small little water fountain on my deck? So think about kind of the big extreme ideas that you have for your garden, and let's just get them put on paper. Does it mean we put them into the garden design today? No, it doesn't. But we need to have those dreams listed out so that when we get to the deep, more in-depth planning, we know a little bit of more of what we want. So with any project, probably your one hindering factor is going to be your budget. Know what your budget is right off the bat. Are you willing to do lots of grunt labor and do all of these work and projects yourself? Is this something that we need to budget over a 3, 4, 5 year or maybe even a 10-year window? That will help us determine what we want to do first in our landscape. So we've figured out how we want to use our yard, what our big dreams are, and what our budget is. And so the next one we need to figure out is who is going to implement all of these plans. Are you going to hire it out? Maybe it's a big deck that you want to be put on your deck. Do you have the expertise to build the deck? Do you have the time? So is that going to be the one who's building it? Maybe you want to have a large patio, like a brick paver patio. 1, have you ever done a brick paver patio? 2, do you have the desire to quickly learn how to do this? So those are the 2 large things that you're going to need to add up into your budget. Are you going to do this, or is somebody else? So as with the budget, this kind of leads right into my next question. What is your level of expertise? Have you ever gardened before in your life? Is this something that you've dreamed about doing but you have zero experience? That's going to determine how we proceed. If you have a little bit of experience and you have lots of DIY love and you have no fear about diving in, or maybe you're a seasoned gardener and the thought of putting in this large rambling flower bed has you have no fear about that. So that's the next thing is, After you've determined your budget, where's your level of expertise? All these answers in our mind rolling through, now we need to determine and kind of weigh that out versus what our lifestyle actually looks like. Just because we have these grand plans that we're going to have a big brick paver patio, we're going to have a large deck, we're going to have large vegetable gardens, you have to ask yourself, do I actually have the time to take care of this? What season of life am I in? Do I have little babies? Do I have toddlers? Do I have school-age kids? Am I just about an empty nester? Am I looking towards retirement and I want to start doing a lot more holidaying? We need to weigh all of those lifestyle things with how we want to implement our yard. If we have little kids, you might not have hours and hours and hours to devote into your garden. If you're an empty nester and you have developed the love of gardening, you're going to have a lot more time that you can devote to more intensive weeding, to planning more elaborate gardens. So let's figure out how many hours a week that we can devote into our garden. The next question you want to find yourself asking is, what kind of style of garden am I drawn to? There's a number of different types of gardens. You can have the English cottage garden, which is filled and rambling, and it's kind of a garden of chaos. You can have a more modern garden where you have open spaces and really showcasing each of your perennials, your annuals, your trees and your shrubs. You can have a Japanese garden where it's got lots of shaped topiaries. So one way to help you figure out what kind of style of garden you like is to find some gardening magazines. If you don't want to invest into any gardening books or magazines, the library is an excellent resource because you can flip through a lot of these books without any commitment to deciding what your style is. So that is where I'd say you should go sign out some library books, maybe tour some of your friends' gardens. There are lots of different big showcase gardens in the province. There's the Devonian Botanic Garden in Devon. There is a Japanese garden in Lethbridge, and there is even the Calgary Zoo. They have lots of beautiful gardens. So across the province, you can tour and see a lot of different styles of gardens to help you choose what your style is. So the next deciding factor in how you're going to design your garden is going to be, where do you live? Do you live in the city? Do you live on a balcony? Do you have a yard? Do you live in a small town? Do you live on a rolling acreage? Where in the province do you live? Do you live in northern Alberta where your days are a little bit shorter in the winter and quite a bit longer in the summer? Do you live in southern Alberta where there have almost no snow cover all year round? Do you live in Calgary where you have all of the Chinook winds that dry things out? Once you know where you live, I will link a website right here that will help you figure out what zone you live in. That zone will help you determine what types of plants that you can put into your garden. Something that works really well in southern Alberta may not work well in Edmonton. Something that works well in Edmonton might not work in Calgary, and that is because of the climate zones. Calgary's climate is a little bit more harsh because of those Chinook winds. It dries things out. The fluctuating temperature means that their zone is actually more of a 2, where in Edmonton you can be maybe a zone 4 because you've got more of that sheltered wind and they don't have as much as the drying winds. Now, the further north you go in the province, of course, you're going to drop down in your zones. Down in southern Alberta, again, you're going to drop your zone a little bit because they don't have any of that insulating snow cover. After you've gone through all of these questions, there's lots of things that are going to be rolling around in your mind. What kind of plants should I do? How am I going to put out the layout? Do I have the space for this tree? Next week, we're going to dive into a little bit more of the plants that work for your climate, how to figure out that, where you could purchase those plants, and then a little bit more on how the actual design works on your garden. If you're interested in learning more about how to design your garden to fit your lifestyle, come back next week. We'll delve a little bit deeper into that, and as well, keep checking in for updates on our new yard site. Thanks for coming and happy gardening.